Hi everybody, and welcome back to Sarah's Cooking. Thank you for tuning in on another episode. I really appreciate you watching today. So let's get started. So today we are going to make my favorite soup, which is clam chowder. I can't say that without trying to sound like I'm from back east. Anyway, we're going to need a 16-ounce bag of whole clams. You can use 2 cans of chopped clams if you want. 4 cups of milk, 1 cup of water, 2 cups of potatoes, 2 cups of celery, 2 cups of onions. I really like onions, they're good for you. Another cup of sweet corn, about 4 teaspoons of cornstarch, 4 teaspoons of chicken broth, and around 2 tablespoons of bacon bits for flavor. Okay, so first we're going to turn our stove on high, and we're going to just put in a little bit of olive oil just to cover the bottom just a little bit. I've got garlic infused olive oil. There you go. And let's put in our bacon bits just for flavoring, not too much. And then we're going to put in our onions. We're going to saute the onions. Wow, this bacon already smells good. A lot of you know that I love bacon, so I'm practically put bacon in everything. Okay, so we're gonna let this saute and get translucent before we add the next ingredient. I'm gonna not stir this much just so I get a little bit of browning on the onions. Don't walk away from the stove though, because it does cook fast. Oh, bacon and onions smell so delish. Okay, let's go ahead and put in our celery. Everything's on high. You can see that I've cut all the vegetables really small bite size so that when you take a bite of your clam chowder, you have a little bit of everything in that bite. A little bit of onions, a little bit of celery, some corn, and okay, so now let's go ahead and brown our potatoes. And we're gonna stir this and let this cook for a couple minutes. I like to put all the ingredients in this way because the bacon infuses into the potatoes, into the celery. Okay, now the potatoes are starting to get a little translucent there. And then we're going to slowly add in our water just to simmer. And a lot of you know that I like to make meals under 30 minutes, so when you do that, you have to have it on high, so just don't leave the stove. If you want at this point, you can cover it and let it simmer for about 2 minutes. And the smaller that you cut your vegetables, the faster the soup is going to cook and you'll be able to eat it right away. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and put in the chicken broth. If you don't have chicken broth, you can put in 2 teaspoons of salt, because you've got so much flavor going on here. You don't really need to use the broth, but I like to use the broth. It just adds a little bit of flavor. Now, at this point, we are going to add the milk. Going to cool it down quite a bit so it's still on high. There you go. Then I'm going to put in the cornstarch. The reason why I use cornstarch instead of flour is because it's gluten-free. Okay, we're gonna stir this. Everything is still on high, so it's gonna go pretty fast. When it starts to barely simmer, that's when I'm gonna go ahead and put my corn in there. This is sweet frozen corn, but you can use canned corn. If you don't have canned corn, you can use cream corn. If you've got fresh corn, you just have to cut it off the cob. Now you can see it's starting to thicken up. And at this point, I'm gonna turn it down to medium high. Okay, I'm gonna put in a little bit more cornstarch just to thicken up the soup just a little bit more. The total cooking time for this soup is going to be about 30 minutes to make sure all your vegetables are nice and tender. Now this is the perfect thickness for me. I like this because I'm gonna serve it in a special bowl, which I'm gonna show you in a little bit. Okay, now at this point, we're gonna add the clam chowder, but I'm gonna turn it on medium, okay? You can see it's starting to boil. Okay, so I'm gonna put in the whole clams, including the juice. And now I'm gonna stir it in. If you find that there's not enough clams, you just add another can. So when you're serving clam chowder, each bite of this creamy, delicious soup should have clams in it. And there you go. And that's it. Now at this point, everything's mixed. You can go ahead and turn it on medium-low, put a lid on it until you're ready to serve. So we're gonna go ahead and turn it down low, and then we're gonna go and prepare the special bowl that this soup is gonna go into. Okay, now we're going to dish up our soup, and what I'm using today are some sourdough bread rolls. Now these are a little small, so you might wanna get something that's a little larger, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut about 1/3 of the top, just like that. And do it to all three. And then you don't have to use the bread. You can just put it in a bowl, but I wanted to do something fancy. So let's go ahead and take out the center of the roll and just take out as much as you can, because this is where the soup is going to go. And this is why I make the soup a little bit thicker, so it's not too runny. Now if you're making this as a full meal, you're gonna want a larger roll. And I just like sourdough, but you can use any kind of bread. This is such a fun and fancy way of doing soup, and kids will love it. They just think it's so neat that you're using a roll for a bowl. Okay, so now we're gonna put the hot soup into our bread bowl. You can see why I like to have a nice thick and chunky soup. You can take an average soup and turn it into a nice fancy little dish. Just like that. And I'm just gonna use the top and just put a little bit on the side there. Like that. And if you got some extra bacon, which I sort of ran out of bacon, you can just put a little bit of bacon on the side. All right, well now I showed you how to make my favorite clam chowder, and you can see how simple it is, how quick it is, how fancy it can be. Now go and make something tasty.